I'm Nama Rue. This is my husband, Rabbi David Rue, and he's going to share some Jewish stories with us.
Well, about tithe. I had mentioned in our last video that the custom of Eastern European Jewry was the Chevra Kadisha, the burial society, would collect from someone what they should have given charity in their lifetime if it was felt they had not given enough. And Berditchev was a major city in Eastern Europe until the railroads were built. It was a major north-south, east-west crossroads trading position. And when Levi Yitzhak of Berditchev was the Rav there, it had a very large Jewish community. And at one point, a man who's a very wealthy, well-known miser who never gave any charity at all passed away. His family was not willing to pay what the Chevra Kadisha was demanding. A fight ensued between them, and they went to the Rav. Levi Yitzhak was asked his opinion, and he said that to the Chevra Kadisha that they should bury him for whatever the family wanted to give, and he wanted to know the time of the levaya of the funeral so that he could attend. It was very rare for the Rav of a city of that side to attend a funeral because it was so large, there were so many funerals that he simply wouldn't be able to do anything else. So they informed him he was at the funeral. At the end of the funeral, one of the elders of the Chevra Kadisha, of the burial society, approached Rabbi Levi Yitzhak and says, "We don't understand, Rebbe. Every time in the past when we've collected money from someone like this, you've never interfered. Why did the Rav feel in this case that he had to interfere?" Rabbi Levi Yitzhak says, "I didn't really know the man, but he came before me 3 times for a din Torah." And I'll tell you what the Dinei Torah were.
What's a din Torah?
A din Torah is a monetary dispute that's adjudicated by Torah law. So in the first din Torah, a man came and said that he owed Rabbi Levi Yitzhak money, and Rabbi Levi Yitzhak was refusing to accept the money that he was owed. And the story was the man had no money, had nothing, couldn't survive, couldn't put 2 pennies together, was always supported by Tzadakah. And he figured, Mishnei Makom, Mishnei Zal, when you change your place, you change your luck. He'd become a traveling whatever, and he'd make some money, but what's he going to do with his wife and children? So he figures his wife will survive somehow until he's able to make some money and get back, and he tells her a lie that he's been hired by this very wealthy miser as a traveling salesman, and that every week on such and such a day, say Thursday, she's supposed to go and get his salary. The first Thursday comes, she goes to the miser's office and introduced herself and said she's supposed to get her husband's salary. And the clerk there says, "I don't know anything about this." And the woman says, "What are you talking about?" Then they start arguing and yelling, and the miser hears in his inner office. And he comes out and he hears what the woman has to say, and he apologizes. And he says, he says to the clerk, he says, "I'm really sorry, I forgot to inform the clerk that you were to get this money as your salary, as your husband's salary every week. So, he tells the clerk, please pay her this amount every week without any question." So 2 years go by or so, and the man's made a lot of money, and he's coming home. He's a little bit nervous about what kind of reception he's going to get. But he comes home, and his wife is happy to have him back, and his children are happy, and everything's wonderful. And he can't quite understand what's going on. The next morning, he asks his wife how it was, with him gone. And she says, "Oh, it was wonderful, da, 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 da. There was a little problem the first time I went to collect your salary, but after that, it was all straightened out, and everything was wonderful." And the guy goes, "Uh-huh." And he makes a quick calculation of how much money his wife has received over this amount of time. And he goes to the miser and says, "You've been supporting my wife and family. I have to pay you back for this." And the miser says, "I don't know you. You don't know me anything. I saw someone abandon his wife. She needed support. So I took care of it. I'm not willing to sell my mitzvah to you." And they get in a fight. "I don't want to accept this charity. Nothing to do with you. I have nothing." They end up before the Rav. And the Rav says that the miser doesn't have to accept the money back. That was the first din Torah. The second in Torah, they didn't have in those days banks, bank drafts, things like that. And wine didn't exist in the north of Russia. It only existed in the south. And there was a wine merchant who went from the far norths of areas like Lithuania, Estonia, to the areas around the Black Sea every year to buy wine. He would ship it with him back north and he would sell it. But he had his entire fortune in cash every year with him as he was traveling south. And when he's traveling through Berditchev, he needs to buy supplies for the next leg of the journey, and he reaches for his wallet, and there's no wallet there, and he faints. And they revive him, and he faints again as soon as he realizes no wallet. They call a doctor. The doctor says, unless we can find his wallet, there's no hope for this guy. And the miser comes forward and says, I think I may have found his wallet, but there's a huge amount of money in it. I need a very exact description of the wallet, and I have to know exactly how much money was in it to be able to return it. I need a siman mufakat, an exact signs as to what this is. So the traveling businessman gives a detailed description of everything. The miser goes, let me check. He comes back in half an hour with the wallet with a full amount of money in it, and the man goes off on his way. 2 weeks later, someone comes to the miser and says, you didn't find that man's wallet because I found his wallet. And I'm feeling bad and I want you to have it. I can't keep this wallet. And the miser says, listen, I don't know you. If you found his wallet, go find him and give him back his wallet. It has nothing to do with me. I saw someone was in trouble and he needed help. So I saved his life. I'm not willing to sell this mitzvah. And they get in a fight and they appear before the Rav. And the Rav says, you found the merchant's wallet, you have to return it to the merchant. How you do that now is a little bit difficult because he's already left town. He's going to come back. When he's going to come back, that's your problem. Figure out how you return the wallet. But you have to return the wallet to the merchant. That was the second din Torah, Baalei Chesed says. The third din Torah was a man had a brilliant business idea. And he went around to all the various wealthy people in Berditchev to try and find a partner because he didn't have it. And everyone's asking, listen, sounds good, but I need either collateral or a cosigner. I can't give you a loan of this type without one of those. And he goes from person to person and no one will give him the loan. Finally, in desperation, he goes to the miser. The miser says, that's one of our fighter jets flying overhead.
How can you tell?
The engine and how low it is. The miser says the same thing. You need collateral or you need a cosigner. And the guy says, if I had collateral or a cosigner, I wouldn't be here. But isn't this a brilliant idea? Can't you front me some money for this idea? Without a collateral, a cosigner, you can't do anything. Finally, the guy in desperation says, the Ribbono Shel Olam, the master of the world, will be my guarantor. And the miser says, the Ribbono Shel Olam will be your guarantor. Fine. He writes up the documents for the loan, that the guarantor in the loan is the Ribbono Shel Olam, the master of the world. The guy's business idea is phenomenally successful. And he comes back several years later at the end of the term of the loan, with the loan, and he says, I have to pay you back. Here's the money I borrowed. And the miser says, no, your loan's already been paid back. And the guy goes, what do you mean my loan's been paid back? He says, your guarantor has paid me back the loan. My businesses have been so successful in the last few years. The only way I can explain it is that your guarantor has paid back the loan for you. And there might even be a shaila of ribbis. I might have to pay you extra because I've been overpaid. It's interest already. What do you mean? Whoever heard of the Ribbono Shel Olam paying back a loan?
Just a second. Ribbono Shel Olam translates
master of the world.
Okay.
He says, you said that the Ribbono Shel Olam, the master of the world, is the guarantee of your loan? You had me put it in the document. We signed that the Ribono Shel Olam, the master of the world, is the guarantee of your loan. Of course, he can, if he can guarantee the loan, he can pay back the loan. So they end up before the Rav of the city, Reb Levi Yitzhak. And he says, if you said the Ribono Shel Olam is the guarantor of your loan, and the holder of the loan says it's been paid off by the guarantor, he can't collect any more money on this loan because that would be interest, which is prohibited from the Torah. So Levi Yitzchak says, this is the third din Torah. I don't know whether he was a miser or he wasn't a miser, but you bury such a person with whatever money the family wants to pay. These are types of things that were done to collect money, to guarantee that we could support the poor. This is a way where it didn't happen. It's a Chassidish story, so it works the reverse of normal things. But we have many, many cases that were tried in various Batei Din, various rabbinic courts, about collecting taxes from people to pay for their meiser, their tithe of money that has to be paid. And it's something that people should be careful about to make sure that they're giving the appropriate amount of tzedakah, that as much as possible that we can relieve, although not completely, but to help relieve the suffering of those people that, for whatever reason, are incapable of taking care of themselves.